We're here at the Waltham Police Headquarters on Lexington Street. We're about to get a behind-the-scenes look at your police department in action. My name's Jerry Kaufman. I'm your Community Policing Coordinator, and we welcome you to True Blue. We're here at the Waltham Police Headquarters on Lexington Street. We're about to get a behind-the-scenes look at your police department in action. My name's Jerry Kaufman. I'm your Community Policing Coordinator, and we welcome you to True Blue. The Waltham Community Policing Program oversees City United, a unique consortium of experts dedicated to problem solving. City United employs a team approach in its concerted effort to identify problems in the city which have a negative impact on the quality of life of our citizens. Once a property is suspected of fostering crime, health problems, safety hazards, or other unacceptable conditions, City United participants share tools of information, enforcement, expertise, and resources to help correct the situation. The ultimate goal embodies crime prevention and beautification while eliminating conditions which nourish criminal activity. Resulting dividends shared by residents include neighborhood pride, confidence in city government, and the awareness that a unified approach to problem solving is effective and fair. Hi folks, I'm here with Sergeant Bob Scarpone. Bob,
Jerry,
thanks for being
how are we
here.
doing?
All right. You are probably one of the early City United people. You came aboard a long time ago, sometime around when JP was aboard, I think.
Yeah.
But one of the things I kind of like people to know is that you have many, many hats in this department. You wear several of them. And I think that's good for City United, you know, so you, not only are you a member of City United, but you also chair the Homeless Coalition.
Yes.
And tell us what that's all about.
The Homeless Coalition was started probably about 15 years ago, and we had a big problem on the Common with homeless activity, sleeping on the Common, the downtown area, hanging around in the storefronts, and it became a quality of life issue for not only the homeless people, but for all the residents and the store owners who were just tired, and they wanted the downtown area cleaned up, so the Homeless Coalition was formed, and we got together with some agencies. We still, to this day, meet monthly.
Yeah, and I think we even have a member of the Lexington, or is it the Lexington Police Department that's a part of our...
Yeah, the Watertown Police.
Watertown Police, Watertown, yes. Sergeant Sampson from Watertown Police.
That's correct.
Yeah, I know at one time, years ago, we used to have somebody from Newton, too.
Yes.
That used to participate in those. But I think what we have on that committee is social service agencies from all over.
Yes.
Many different social service
We do. We have
agencies.
a Middlesex Human Service Agency still attends.
Salvation Army.
Salvation Army. We have the Presbyterian Church has the day center.
Oh, yeah.
The soup kitchen, a representative from there.
Middlesex Human Service Agencies groups, yep, all of those.
The chief probation officer attends from the Waltham District
Yep,
Courthouse.
Lily
So
Bond
we
Court.
have a lot
Yep.
of different individuals that attend.
Right. And I know that it was your idea a couple of years ago to put out a brochure that would go to some of these agencies where people that are homeless could pick up one of these. I think we have a copy of them right here. This is a good example of what we do, and we try to keep these updated and print them every couple of months or so. But basically what it is, it says need food, clothing, shelter, look inside for help. And when you open it up and look inside, it lists all these agencies. It lists their phone numbers, contacts, and when they serve the meals and where you can go for food and shelter.
Great.
It's a good idea. And I think we keep some of those at the library, and I know that the Community Day Center has them as well.
Yes, they're distributed downtown areas, and they are.
Speaking of
success.
downtown areas, you obviously get involved with the business community, because that was another brochure that I remember. In fact, we have a copy of that one right here too. It was your idea, I think, to hook up with these folks in the business community, especially on Moody Street.
Yeah, we had a series. At that time, we had a series of robberies going on downtown area, and we got to looking at the storefronts and saying, what can we do to, maybe stop this or help these store owners? And we came up with a brochure where we went into the stores and we did a little inventory ourselves, and we noticed that a lot of them had the windows were covered over.
Yeah.
Their camera systems were not working correctly, or they didn't have camera systems, and we basically came up with this little pamphlet to tell them, hey, take a look at this and tighten it up a little bit. And it seems to have worked. We got a good response from that.
We did, and for the folks, just so they know, you had everything from cash control, installing a drop safe, employee security education, security training, surveillance cameras, digital recording cameras, educating and elevating your employees. That was an interesting theory right there, make sure they can see.
Yes, get up over the counter.
Yeah. And removing signage from the windows. There's a whole list of things here. It's very valuable stuff. So, okay, so that's the business community. That's the homeless. We also have colleges.
Yes.
You deal with the colleges.
Yes, we've got a couple of officers that are currently assigned to deal with off-campus housing, another quality of life issue for the residents, where they have these college students renting a multiple family house, having parties.
Yeah.
They can't control them. They call the police. They want something done. So now we have officers that work directly with both the students and the campus police to try to alleviate some of these problems.
Right. So what we have is like one officer is assigned to Bentley, and another officer is assigned to Brandeis.
That's
and
correct.
They deal directly with Brandeis police and
that's correct. And
off-campus shenanigans.
And they actually have meetings with these students on campus prior to the year beginning. They're there, so it works out pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. The other thing is, besides the colleges, what about the hotels? I know that we deal with those folks. Waltham has a huge hotel population.
Yes, with the Chamber of Commerce, and Sergeant Tim Meyer has been involved in this. With we had going for quite a while a a meeting, a monthly meeting with the Hotel Association regarding various issues from the traffic flow up there to the homeless issues, and it seems to have worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
There's still a very good communication. Sergeant Tim Marr is basically overlooking that right now.
Right, right. I remember one of the big problems we had was that damn bridge.
Yes.
That was another issue that lasted forever and ever. You know, people were complaining about the traffic and everything else. We've had meetings on that. Thank goodness it's all complete now. But
So yeah, I do wear a lot of hats for all these different things. In
Yes,
addition to
yes.
that, I am the community policing, one of the
Right.
3 community policing sergeants in this department, and I also am assigned to the patrol division, where I am the street patrol supervisor on my shifts. So it's a busy day.
I forgot banks.
Banks we do, yes. I overlook a program with Officer Linda Motion right now,
Yeah.
where we go to the banks and we talk about the bank alarm systems. We go over emergency contacts, the procedures, and exactly what to expect when the police are coming.
Yeah, we try to meet with those folks occasionally and get together and discuss security with them, I know.
Yes.
Anything else that we deal with? I think that's a lot.
It is a lot. It's all tied in with City United.
Yeah,
It's all tied in.
because that's the one thing you could safely say. Somebody says, well, what does all this got to do with City United? But it all overlaps. It all, when you talk about the campuses, the off-campus living,
Yes.
well, you're talking about landlords, you're talking about tenants, you know?
Yes.
All of this is affected with City United.
And it's all quality of life issues
Yeah.
for the residents.
Yep, you're right. Hey, Bobby, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jerry.
Pleasure. Hi, folks. We're here with 2 of our members from City United, Jean Umbrello,
Hello.
Caroline Kyra.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hello, Jerry.
Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
I know this is tough, but you can get through it. All right.
Sure.
Jean, you're with Wallach's Realty.
Yep, I'm the proprietor of Waltham Realty.
All right. So you're the owner.
I am.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah,
All
well, good days and bad days.
Yes. I do too. Caroline, you're with Remax.
Remax Leading Edge right here in Waltham.
Remax Leading Edge. You got to get the leading edge.
Yep, got to get the leading edge in
Okay,
there.
yeah,
I've been with
right.
Remax for 7 years now.
Now, somebody once said to me, how come you guys have real estate agents on City United? You know, they're not cops, they're not firemen, they're not members of the city. And I always have to try to explain to them that we deal a lot with people who live in houses.
Right.
You know?
That's
I mean,
correct.
that's who we deal with, all right, primarily. But I mean, let's take you first, Jeannie. You deal with rentals.
I do. When I started my business, I started off as a rental company. And someone from the building department called me and said, we're starting this committee called City United, and we think that you'd be a great addition to it because of your experience with the landlord-tenant issues that are going on. So I went to a meeting and I found it really interesting, and I thought, yeah, this would be a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't, Jerry, I'm dating myself, but I think that was in
1995.
1995, and
Yeah.
I've been here ever since.
Yeah, it had to be somewhere around 95, because like I told you guys, I think I
Yeah.
came here in 96, and I can remember at that time, they asked me if I'd like to attend a City United meeting. And I said, what the heck is that? And they tried to explain to me what the heck you guys did. And I said, well, you know, that's kind of interesting, you know, because you deal with everybody. You know,
You
I
do.
mean, you know, you hear a lot of stories, you hear a lot of things going on in the city, and it's kind of fascinating. So I did attend a meeting, and at that time, we must have had about 25 members of City
Yeah.
United there. It was a big crowd.
Quite a large
Yeah,
crowd.
yeah. But we got so much work done now that we don't need the big crowd.
Yeah.
That's right.
Which is
That's good.
just the first team is on now, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll never forget one of the first ones that we had, which I thought was a riot, and then I realized how diversified Waltham was, is when it was an apartment on Oak Street, and the tenants had taken off all the doors to the cupboards and put up chicken wire and had chickens
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah.
their kitchen. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, I guess I haven't seen it all.
Chickens.
Chicken.
Yeah.
So that was one of the first things was like, okay, how do we try to get things across to tenants that are not from our country?
Yeah.
You know, different cultures.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we
good
had
point.
a seminar, remember? We
We
had a big
did.
seminar and we
Yeah.
invited a lot of the tenants and landlords. just to try to educate them.
Yeah, I can remember the seminar we had. We had quite a few people at the first one. I think we had about 150 people
Yeah, we
at the
did.
first seminar.
Well, one of the first seminars that we did through City United really was directly related to drug issues in the city.
Yes.
And tenants that were dealing drugs within
Yes.
a mile radius of a school.
Yep.
And that was probably
Yeah.
one of the best seminars we did as far as an education, to educate not only the landlords, but just people in the city to what actually happens. There
was a
was
good
an
seminar.
incident back then where in Watertown there was a drug taking. One of the properties in Watertown was taken by the federal government and resold.
That'll get the landlord's
we-
attention.
Yeah, it sure did. And we came up with a wonderful brochure that we passed out on how to better educate landlords and how to figure out what kind of tenants that they have coming
Yeah.
into their apartments, how to do criminal checks, which is pretty important. So, and it was great because we had Laura Cannon as our attorney way back then.
That's right. She
And,
spoke. I remember her
we had
speaking.
every division
Yeah.
there talking about all the different pitfalls that a landlord would run into. So it was actually, I think and we're still giving out those pamphlets today. So, how many years later? 15
That's right.
years later.
That's right. And in fact, I think that pamphlet is now online.
Yeah.
You can get it online by going into the Waltham website, and I think it's under the police. If you click on police, and you'll find landlord seminar in there. So we do have that, and I've got a few copies, and we'll show a copy of it, on the screen. But I think we had Will Brownsberger. I think he was an assistant DA or
DA,
something
we
at the
did
time.
have him come and speak
Yeah.
to everyone about what the actual law meant to the average landlord, which was really great. The other thing I think that's been so important for me as a realtor in the city, I do primarily sales,
Yes.
not the rentals. So being on the committee for me has been really great because I've been doing this 30 years. I grew up in Waltham. I'm a Waltham agent, and when we're sitting around the table and we're talking about different issues in the city, there's a lot of times where Gene and I just smile and say, "Oh yeah, I was in that house.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that guy."
Yeah.
And we have a better understanding sometimes, and that's one of, I think, the main reasons why we were asked to join the committee in the beginning, because we're out there in a whole different perspective. We're out there, we're not the police, we're not the fire department, but we certainly can say, oh, we've dealt with him, and this is what problems may have arisen because of that situation.
That's a good point.
So it's been really useful.
Yeah.
The other thing that I found with City United that's been extremely useful is our seminars that we've done over the years.
Yeah.
And as a realtor, having all the major departments in the city every month to be able to sit down at the table and talk about these
Right.
things is just priceless. I mean, when we had issues with multifamily dwellings, as a realtor, when I'm selling a property in the city, you don't just go to the assessors and look it up and they tell you it's a 3. You need to go to the building department to clarify just what it is
Good
that
point.
you're selling.
Yeah.
And what we had done for the local realtors is we did a seminar way back, and we took a tour of the building department, and Ralph Gaudet at the time showed us how you would go ahead and check to see what the legality of a 4 or a 3 family, what would take place, and just what would we do if we ran into an issue. So it was really helpful. And then when we had the fire through the years way back, the fire department, we did another seminar with the local brokers, helping them to understand, well, where do you put these smoke detectors? How does this whole
Good point.
thing work?
Yeah.
So that part of it with Gene and I has been really helpful to be able to educate not only our sellers when we're out there and our landlords, but to kind of help the brokers so they can kind of see what it is that they need to do when they're selling property in the city.
And I notice sometimes when I bring up a particular listing or a house or a property, you guys always seem to know who it is, who owns it, who the landlord is,
Right.
Well,
all the
after
time.
years and years of being
mean-
in the city, after
Yeah.
a while, you get to know every landlord, every owner.
Yeah.
You're either selling,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
renting,
Yeah.
even tenants.
Yeah.
Tenants will come back,
Yeah.
and you'll
Yeah.
get to know, geez, you know what, this is a good person. They just don't know
Yeah,
any
they don't
better.
know any
They're
better.
not educated
Yeah,
on the
right.
subject.
And I know that every once in a while I'll call you, Jeannie, if I have a situation with a landlord,
Yeah.
and I say, well, you know, should I call this landlord? Or Jeannie knows the landlord. Maybe I'll let her talk to him. You know, and usually it works out better because you know who the landlord is. You know something about him. You know something about the tenants.
Yeah, and you
it
get the
works out
insight.
well. Yeah.
The other part of City United, which I think has been really helpful, is when I go out and I do deal with some elderly people, and you know, when we're listing and there's issues that come up, and there are some issues that may not really be a big police issue, but to somebody living in a house where someone's taking their parking space every day, or small things that they don't want to ask someone. You know, they might bring it up to me, and of course I'll call you and say, Jerry, did you hear about this over here? Maybe there's something, some sort of interaction that's going to help them feel a little bit about it. And through the years, I've had people tell me about neighbor problems and parking problems and you know, all kinds of issues that they're afraid to call the police.
That's
but they may come and tell me or Jean about it.
And you guys pass it on to City United, which is great. That works out well. Yeah. Hey, it's been great. I really appreciate you guys being here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, folks. We're down here at the main fire station on Lexington Street. I'm here with my new buddy, Lieutenant Scott Perry.
Hey, Jerry. How are you? Good to see you.
Thanks a lot for doing this. I want to let the people know something about you.
About me?
About Scott Perry, all right?
All right.
Now, how long have you been with the fire department?
Since October of '95, so into 17 years. So.
And you've been a lieutenant for how long?
Full-time lieutenant for the past 2+ years.
Okay.
I did some out-of-grade work for about a year.
Okay. Now, one of the things that I think people might not know about you is that you're also a lawyer.
Yes.
And when did this happen?
Before I got on the fire department, I tried to get on for a number of years. I didn't. There's a bunch of lists and things you have to get on and civil service exams. So I sat on some lists. I decided I was going to continue to go to school. I got a call halfway through law school, so I put that law school on hold for a year, finished my time in the academy, and then when I was here, I went back nights. But, you know.
Okay.
So that's been since about '98 I've been an attorney.
Good. It helps as far as City United is concerned. I should mention right now that, as people should know by now, you're a member of City United.
Yes, I've been a member of City United for about 2 years, since I got in the office here at Fire Prevention, which is, you know, the fire department's divided up into line and support staff. And part of the issues with fire prevention is we deal with that support staff situation where we do a lot of the routine maintenance, scheduling on the apparatus that you see in the fire station. We do a ton of outreach programs with education for children all the way up into the elderly. We do a ton of work with code enforcement, which is the primary job of fire prevention, to make sure that structures that are being built or renovations that are occurring even on a level of a single-family home or a condo unit all the way up to some of these multi-million-dollar buildings that are built in Waltham are inspected and they're built to proper specs. And that's something that City United does. You know, we handle disputes with that, but the city departments like the building department, the wires department, the fire department, we all kind of work together to make sure that things are being met according to the codes of Massachusetts regulations, the city ordinances, and what have you.
Yeah, and I think that's where you come in really great with City United, because you know all the folks in the city, as you mentioned, you know, building, wires, all these different departments, all contribute to, you know, what makes City United work, basically work. There's been numerous cases that, you know, we have had to call on your expertise, of course. And also, there are times when you folks have alerted City United as to problem places.
Yeah, well, I think that's the big part of City United is the push to have communication throughout different divisions of the city, and also have a voice and ground for people who, you know, residents who need to sit there and say, all right, I have a dispute, and I'm not really able to handle it myself, so let's try to get this rectified. So having, you know, all these divisions work together within the city really helps out. So it's something I actually didn't know about until I got on the board and starting to work in that staff position versus on the fire line. You know, I spent years on fire apparatus and didn't really know we had the City United as a program. So it's good to have out there. We have done a lot, you know. as you said, I am an attorney, but I don't act as an attorney for the fire department, you know, and just having that education, I think, helps out with some of the code stuff. You know, when we go into a place, we're trying to make sure that whether it's a resident living in a landlord situation and we can't find the landlord, and they're not living in the best of situations, and we say, look, we've got to get this to be stepped up to be proper and be safe for people, and some of that code language that we can decipher helps us out on you know, both the police front, the fire department, the health department, and the building department. So.
Yep, well said. I think there are times when you've talked to us about apartments or houses that you've had to enter for one reason or another, a fire or whatever, and folks have noticed that there may be some problems with that establishment that you've brought to our attention, you know? Yeah,
you know, it's a difficult situation on the fire service. You know, people tend to see, you know, all these glorified movies on firefighting and all that. You know, when it's actually happening and someone's engaged in an emergency situation, whether it be a medical or just to assist a resident, all the way up to, you know, a fire where you can't see your hand in front of your face, and you know, you need to get certain actions done while we're there. And if we see people that are living in hoarded situations and all that, sometimes that's the first time it's coming to our attention, is right then and there. So that gets passed along to the board, as well as to health department, building department. So, you know, it makes the full circle, and then we try to get services to help people, or to get people to help themselves, or to have family members come in and help people. You know, it's almost impossible. We had a fire recently, you know, people know about it, and you know, the situation was the place was just loaded with materials, and that's, you know, you think of putting, you know, anywhere between 40 and 60 something pounds of material on a firefighter as in protective gear, and then trying to make it through material like that, where people have carved paths out that, you know, normal people just can't fit through. It becomes extremely difficult. So part of it's the safety of our firefighters, as well as the safety of the citizens and those, you know, that we're out there trying to protect.
Well, yeah, we've heard a few horror stories, I think, you and I, over the last year or so. And earlier in the show, we did talk about hoarding as a real problem. And it's, I don't know why we seem to be seeing a lot more of it. Maybe it's the TV shows that are on now that feature some of these things like hoarding. That may be bringing it to people's attention, and maybe they're more aware of it. But you certainly have seen it, and I've seen it.
Yeah, it's becoming extremely prevalent. And you know, it's something, like you said, we didn't really know about a ton of before, but it's making its way into mainstream society and discussions, and you know, it's becoming a real problem.
So how things are going lately, Scott, as far as fires in the city and problems? Is there anything we need to know about?
No, you know, it's funny. The fire service has been around for quite a while. It's become extremely diversified in what we do. It's no longer just putting out fires. There's a lot of medical bases. Yeah. I'm not sure the exact stats, but I know we did well over 8,000 runs last year.
8,000?
Yeah. So that includes, you know, anything from just helping someone, you know, with a minor medical situation, all the way up to a tragic car accident or structure fires, or, you know, anything that the alarm goes off for. So
that's a lot of runs.
Yeah, you know, it's a lot of runs. We're pretty consistent somewhere up in that range. I can get back to you with specific numbers as far as what the run totals are, but you know, these apparatus see a lot of time on the road, and you know, if they're not out on runs, we do a ton of training. You know, in the fire service now, you have to train. You know, complacency is what really gets people injured, and you know, it doesn't benefit those that we protect if we're not safe and trained.
You know, that's the one thing that I've noticed about law enforcement as well as fire safety, is that over the last few years, training seems to be really pushed now. I see it with the police department, and I see it with you guys a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, you think about it, is the time that we have to act and react in an emergency situation, we train for the worst situation and hope for the best. And you know, we go into these situations knowing that if we have the basic trainings behind us, that we're going to be much more effective in being able to put a fire out quickly, being able to pull someone out of a bad situation, or, you know, being there for a good day, someone having a baby and they just couldn't make it to the hospital. That's happened to us, and you know, we do a training from all sides of fire service, whether it be on a medical basis, which there's a ton of EMTs on the job. I think almost more than 50% of the job here in the fire service in Waltham, they're all medically trained. Every single one of us is trained to a first responder level or higher, and you know, it's become a big part of the fire service, is that medical aspect.
I know you guys go into the schools as well. And I think feedback I get from kids, of course, they love it when the fire department. They love
they have a good time in the schools. It's big to educate these kids and to get them to know the safety things. You know, it used to be you'd go into a school system and every kid would know stop, drop, and roll. But that's not appropriate for every situation. If there's a fire, you want them out of the house. You don't want them stop, dropping, and rolling. So, you know, that actually takes training on our part because we have to send people to get certified and to make sure that they're training the right aspects of what the state fire marshal is looking for. And, you know, it becomes a big undertaking. And this city's done fantastic. We have some great officers in fire prevention. You know, Lieutenant Mike Murphy and Lieutenant John Ferrick, who just took over the educational setting. They do a great job. Mike did a fantastic job. The guys that help out in the fire service here, the guys that are on the trucks that are willing to help out and have school groups come here, you know, it's all about getting these kids to know how to be safe.
You know, one of the things that I get a kick out of is every year you guys contribute to the Chesterbrook and Dana Court, where we have these summer cookouts.
Yep.
And you folks have been there a couple of times, or many times actually, to bring, was it Pluggy? Is it called Pluggy now, or do they got a
Well, we have the dog that comes out and he, you know, he's in his little fire truck. And, yeah, that's a very big thing for the children.
Oh, they love it. Yeah.
One of the biggest things with the fire service is to make sure children aren't afraid of firefighters. When you're all dressed up and geared up, it can be pretty intimidating to a little kid where there's alarms going off and loud noises, and you know, they're a lot more agile than we are in that gear, and they know their house real well as far as the layout. We're not that quick. We don't run around fires. Most of the time, if it's an actual fire situation, guys are crawling through the buildings, the men and women that are in that gear, and you know, we want these kids to be able to come to us rather than just take off and hide.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I think we covered, I think, plenty of stuff here as far as City United is concerned, but, you know, while I'm in here, I'm seeing all this wonderful equipment you guys have, and I'm looking at this ladder tower truck here.
Yeah, it's a big one.
And that is a huge, I noticed when they backed it up, I swear it wasn't going to clear. You know, it just made it.
Well, again, we go back to training. These guys spend hours training on the road as well, learning how to drive these apparatus safely. They're big, they're heavy, they don't stop as well. People on the road don't understand that, you know, they don't brake like a car, they don't steer like a car, and you know, it takes a lot more to keep yourself in an emergency situation driving these apparatus.
Engine
It's engine 2.
Is that the new one?
That's one of the newest of the fleet. It's a Seagrave engine. It's a fantastic pump.
Is it? Can we go over there and look at it?
Sure, we'll take a look if you'd like.
All right, let's
come on over. So this is a Seagrave pump that we just put in service for engine 2. I think it's been in for a little more than a year right now. It's probably, you know, it's a really state-of-the-art piece of apparatus. You know, as we talked about, the fire service is as we talked about, the fire service is continually changing, so there's a need to do more and more versus just putting out fires. So these trucks now have to have the capability of putting out fires as far as specifically designed. This is a pump, so it carries water in a tank. It has the capability of having an outside water source hooked up to it from a hydrant, as well as having all the ladders to do some minor laddering. Our ladder trucks handle most of the laddering in the building with an aerial or some heavy and longer reaching ladders. But this has to have some medical equipment on it. Some of the other trucks are specialized with rescue equipment to do confined space and to do, you know, like if someone were to go down in an area where they had to shore up walls or anything to go back and get down and get them. So all this stuff has to fit on these trucks now. Yeah. So they're getting a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger.
Now that ladder truck, how high can that ladder go?
That ladder, I believe, again, I'm not an expert on each one of these trucks. Yeah. Most of my time was spent at Moody Street. Yeah. But that ladder truck, I believe, is a 100-foot aerial. I can check on that. And so that aerial will be able to get up. Yeah. Now, again, that depends on, you know, whether we have the situation where we can get the ladder shot to where we need to. Yeah. That's part of the training of these guys, is to be able to pull an aerial up and notice the situation and say, okay, I have overhead lines here. I can't throw an aerial in their power lines because that's going to end badly.
Would that truck fit in Moody Street?
This truck?
Yeah.
I believe it would fit in Moody Street, yeah. Moody Street's pretty tight.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the oldest stations we have in the city. I think it is the oldest station we have in the city. Yeah. And, you know, the mirrors are pretty tight coming through the doors of Moody Street because it wasn't really designed for trucks of these sizes.
Right.
So
right. Oh,
we do have, a couple of trucks down at Moody Street. So we have the Deputy Chief is housed there. We have Engine 1, Squad 5, and we have Ladder 2, which is a ladder that has the tiller driver in the back of it.
Oh, yeah.
So you've seen that one going around. Yeah. That's a beautiful piece of apparatus, too. So.
And how long have you had this one?
I believe this came into service about a year and a half ago.
Okay. All right.
So they spec'd this out. This was a while coming, but you know, after a while, these trucks, you know, we try to cycle them through. They're very expensive, but they're immensely needed. We can't really do the job without them.
Sure.
So,
have you got all the equipment you need right now?
you know,
Nobody ever has it.
yeah, you know, we can always use more equipment.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's always updating the stuff that we have because everything has to be tested.
Yeah.
You know, the ladders have to be tested and rated to make sure that we can use them and they're not going to have a failure or a collapse on the ladder while you're on it with weight. You know, the SCBA air bottles that we wear, those have to be tested to make sure that they're not going to blow out in a fire and the guy's going to lose the only air source that he has.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we have a ton of equipment. We've been fortunate, but we also, you know, we got to maintain that, and you know, there's always new things coming down the pipeline. You know, recently we've put in, over the years, we've had a number of thermal imaging devices, which I think we've all seen footage of that. You know, and it's able to detect heat differences in heat. So those are on a lot of the apparatus now, so that way we can go into a fire instead of having to do, you know, massive destruction and knock through walls and everything to check for extension. We can look through and say, okay, it looks like we got a really big heat source here. We need to open this wall up, and we're a little bit less damage overall. Now, however, if there's a fire in there, we're going to have to open it up and make sure everything's put out. But
that's good to hear. Right. Hey, Scott, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
All right.
See you at the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll see you at the next meeting. All right, take care, guys.
We're down here at Foster and Cannon, and we're here with attorney Laura Cannon. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Jerry.
Thanks for doing this.
You're very welcome.
I want the audience to know pretty much what you're all about. All right?
Sure.
I mean, you've been a City United member for a long time.
Yes.
Right? So what I'd like to do is have them know a little bit about you, where you went to school, that kind of thing.
Sure, sure. Well, proud graduate of Waltham High School in 1981. Went to Lesley College locally, went to BC Law after that, and stayed in Waltham.
And you graduated with my daughter, by the way.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
The audience should know this, too. I used to hang around with your dad. When we were little kids together, all right, we used to play Marines, me and your dad. So I go back a long way with him. And, of course, your mom, I think I went to school with your mom. We graduated together.
Exactly, exactly.
Small city, isn't it?
Very small city, very small city.
Go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No problem. And but it's funny how when you've been in a city this long, and my grandparents are Waltham, my father's father was Waltham Coal, my mother's father was Barbershop, corner of Charles Street.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Really?
Philip Lembo.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
Yeah.
My mom, Kathy Cannon,
Yes.
community activist. My dad, deputy superintendent of schools.
That's right.
And you want to make sure that Waltham is a place that your children want to live in.
Yeah. Good.
Which so far, so good. Yeah. They're still here, and there will be fourth generation Walthamites.
So what do you do here on Main Street?
I started working here in 1985 for Mr. Foster.
Yes.
And 88, I became a lawyer, started practicing law, doing criminal defense, doing evictions, doing divorces, doing real estate conveyancing. And as time passed, Mr. Foster took me into his family, I'd say, made me a partner, and I stayed. And
also, people should know something very important. You're also my lawyer.
Yes, oh yes. Good personal recommendation.
Go ahead.
So right after I passed the bar, I started getting involved with a lot of the community organizations, President Waltham Garden Club, Chamber of Commerce, Boys and Girls Club, and around 1990, 91, 92, City United became effective, became in existence. So I was asked as a community member and someone that did real estate, but also did some litigation and some evictions, to bring my knowledge to the table, my legalese to the table, and help members of the community from the police, fire, health, etc.
Well, you're actually a perfect example of the consortium of people that are involved in City United. Actually, because what they're trying to do, obviously, in the beginning was to get experts from all over the city. By experts, I mean people from the health department, the building department, all these different departments. Right. And it doesn't have to be a city worker, actually. It could be someone who, like yourself, has been involved in everything that has to do with the city and can offer the kind of things that you offer. So you were a perfect fit at that time, I remember.
Exactly.
You came before me.
Yes, I was, Eddie McDonald, I believe,
Yes.
was the police liaison at that time.
Yeah.
And we used to meet in the bank building up on Moody Street that's
Yes,
now
yes.
next to Welch's Optics. And we met
Yeah.
there for the longest time. And then we met in other various places. And now at least we have a home
Yes.
at the community policing down
Yeah.
on Carter Street.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. So, but for a while we were kind of nomads
Right,
and moved
right.
around. And we truly, when we first started, I believe the reason it started was because there was a horrendous fire on High Street.
Oh, yeah.
And when the fire department went in there to save people, they ran into walls and locks. Whoever was the owner had created a number of apartments, and the fire department had no idea what they were walking into. They thought it was a two-family dwelling. So at that point, city officials decided, we need to make sure that our people are safe when they go into a piece
Yeah.
of property.
Yeah.
And if they know what the zoning is, and the zoning is enforced, and they know how many apartments are in there, they can do that because they pretty much know how these houses are laid out. So they created City United, and the combination of efforts between all of the various departments is what makes it work. When we first started out, we knew we had something,
Sure.
and we knew what we wanted to do, and it's basically to, we've got pretty special neighborhoods in the city,
Yeah.
and we have people that are very proud of their neighborhoods and their properties and how they live and who their neighbors are, and we want to make sure it stays that way.
Sure. It began, I remember, we had a grant. And with that grant, we built on City United with that grant because we created a couple of positions, and we try to work with, because we're taking people right out of their jobs. I mean,
I volunteer.
You volunteer. You don't get a huge salary for City United.
No,
That's
no.
not part of it.
No.
And none of the people that actually are City United members get paid for it. They're all volunteers.
Right. And again, I think it's our dedication to Waltham as a community.
Right.
That keeps us coming back all the time. And if all these, do the math, it's over 20 years that I've been involved.
Yeah.
And when we first started out, like I said, we needed to decide how do we use our skills together to fix these problems.
Yeah.
And we started with we're able to, as a united group, we are able to go to the district court, if we have an uncooperative landlord, get their permission to go into properties, to clean them up, to make sure that when a firefighter enters, it's safe.
Yeah, and we've come a long way too, because I think when you first started, the focus was pretty much on landlords and tenants. We've really expanded that, I think, haven't we? I mean, we're talking
Absolutely.
neighborhoods now. We're going into entire neighborhoods, complaints that come to City Hall,
Right.
and will come to City United.
Right.
And then in turn, because I hit you guys with this stuff once a month. We go through the agenda. We go step by step through every single problem that comes across my desk. I throw at you guys, and you sit there and try to resolve them for me.
Exactly. And we also, I think, one thing that we didn't do in the beginning is we mediate. We'll help neighbors talk to each other and resolve problems between themselves.
Yeah.
And give them the resources they need to resolve the problems. Because some people just don't know where to turn.
Yep,
So
that's
by
right.
calling City United or going through the police department, which and our community policing efforts, we're able to give them the resources and the tools to help their neighbors. It's not in any negative way whatsoever. We're there as a resource to the community. Because I don't think people don't know where to turn anymore.
Right. Now, your own life as a lawyer, basically, what do you get involved in yourself?
I do real estate conveyancing.
Yep.
So what I like about it is that I get to meet a lot of people coming into Waltham. So when they're buying a house in Lakeview or Warrendale, or I'll say, I'll see you at B&F Pizza, or and it's knowing the community too. I'll say, well, just remember there's a farmer's market and we have these things going on. So you kind of welcome people into the community and make them feel that this is a great place to live.
Yeah, good. I love to hear that.
It is. It is. And, part of what we do by helping neighborhoods and helping people clean up their properties, we're helping our tax base. You talk dollars for the city, help our tax base, which ultimately helps our education, which helps our future.
Sure.
So I'm still there.
I love it. Laura, thanks so much for
You're
doing
welcome.
this for us, all right?
You're welcome. See you at the
See you
next
at the
meeting.
next meeting. Hi, folks. We're over here at the Government Center, and we're here in the building department with Building Inspector Brian Bauer. Brian, good
Jerry,
to see you.
nice to see you.
Great we could make this today. I know you're busy. You got a lot of things going on right now, but what the heck's a building inspector anyway?
Well, what we do is we issue building permits.
Yeah,
We do a zoning review. We enforce the City of Waltham zoning.
yeah.
And we do annual inspections, mostly all life safety, and it keeps us busy. Waltham's a busy place.
Yeah. Well, you've been on City United for a long time. You know, we get involved in all these landlord-tenant things. We get involved with people neighbors who will call about a building that they think is either illegal.
Yeah, illegal. We get a lot of those that we've been working with. Been fortunate enough to work with you guys for 9 years now.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's been we've done a lot of stuff over the years, and it's a lot of the complaints that we've gotten were from the neighbors complaining about the illegal rooming houses, lodging houses, vacant houses that run down and that aren't safe. And you know, we team up and.
Well, let's be honest. I probably deal with you more than anybody in City United, because the building department gets hit with all of these things. I mean, it falls on your shoulders all the time. I mean, there are certain things that fall under the building department that don't fall under the police department. Like, for instance, let's take one example: parking on untreated land.
Yes, that's a big problem.
Yeah, like when we say untreated land, what are we talking about?
Well, you're talking about untreated land is you can't park on your grass.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem. We actually had somebody come in yesterday looking to expand their driveway because they're parking on their grass. And when I explained to him that that was a violation of the Waltham zoning ordinance, he had no idea.
No clue. So, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. Yeah. But the police department can't cite for that.
No, it's our office cites that, and it has to be on Belgian block or a hot top or concrete.
Okay. All right. So, hey, folks, that's good to know, right? Remember that.
Yeah, that's a big problem we have.
Yeah, it is. It still is. Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of issues that come up that, well, you know, we have to rely on the fire department. We have to rely on the health department. We have to rely on the street department.
Yep.
But to be very honest, about 80% of the things that we get have to go to you.
Yeah, well, our building code allows us to enforce some of these vacant homes if we can contact the landlord in order to cite them and convene a board of survey committee to go in and evaluate the home and see if it's unsafe for human occupancy and try to do something about it.
Well, I know we've got one right now, and in the next segment of the show, we're going to have on Tommy Crianti from the health department and Ron Hache from the street department, and we're going to go visit one of those sites that right now is uninhabited. Well, let me put it this way: there's an absentee landlord involved in it.
Yes, there is.
And you and I both know what that building is, and it's a problem. You know, it's a problem because we can't get a hold of the landlord.
Can't find him. We know where he lives, and we can't find him.
Yeah.
I've even driven up there off hours to see if I could find him.
Oh yeah.
Nobody's home.
Yeah. That's another matter. We do have a couple like that, as a matter of fact. Well, we may have a lot more than a couple in the city.
Yeah, we've had a few through the years.
We have.
That we've dealt with, and they were successful.
Right.
In the end, they take a few years. Some take 3, some take 2. Some we have to go to the courts and visit and get orders from the clerk magistrate. And
well, you know,
dealt with that way.
I remember maybe 1995, probably. It was back a few years when we had a building. All right, it was an apartment complex, and that was in the south side of the city, and that was a real problem because I think there was a fire there.
Yep, there was a fire, and they pulled a permit, I believe, in 1997 to fix the second and third floors, and they started the work with a tenant living on the right side, I believe, and they walked away and never finished. So a couple years later, sometime I think it was 2005, the tenant contacted you and I, and we cited the absent landlord.
Right.
And they never got back to us. They ignored us. We finally got a hold of them. They didn't want to do anything about it. We sent the final notice. We convened the small committee to do a careful survey. And that consists of the fire chief, the engineer, city engineer, and one disinterested party. And we did the survey, and she did the engineer at the time did a nice letter, and we submitted it. We sent it to the landlord, and we requested from the mayor's office to appropriate some money from the council for us to board up the house, and that was granted. And the owner at the time, she eventually sold the home, and the money that was paid to board the house up, when it was recorded at the registry of deeds, so we got that. The city got the money back eventually in the sale of the property.
I know we've got some pictures here, Brian. We'll probably show these, but you know, here's pictures of the building, you know, and then there's, of course, we've got the fire pictures here
well,
too.
The
as
problem
well.
with the house was there was a tenant living on one side, and there was no fire separation wall. The roof was open up on the third floor. The raccoons were getting in there, and we could see them climbing down the fire escape in the back at one time.
Man.
And it was a bad situation for the people that were living there, and they finally all ended up moving out at the time when we were boarding it up. So
This was over quite a period of time, I think, too.
it was. We resolved that in 2007.
Yeah. But you know what, there's a nice side to this, too, because I can remember you taking me over to see the facility when it was being remodeled.
When it was under
and
construction.
An absolutely gorgeous job the builder did. I was really impressed
Yeah, they
with it. They did a marvelous job. Yep. And in fact, just
Well, it's nice to see something like that.
It is,
An end
it is.
result. That's
Yeah.
what I like about being in the building industry, when they're building 175 Wyman Street from the ground up, and it's a beautiful building, and all
Yeah.
the, you know, it's nice to see new homes from the ground up. Going
Absolutely,
up.
absolutely, I agree.
It's nice seeing
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I'm looking at these pictures today, and they don't look anything like the ones in the past, you know?
Nope.
But, you know, I think the one I remember that was the biggest bone of contention that you and I had was the one up in the Lakeview area.
Oh yeah, the North Lakeview, yep.
And that was the one, the roof. Remember the roof?
The roof had a top on it for years and years and years. And we
Yeah.
finally, there was
Yeah.
another absentee landlord, and we finally,
There's some pictures right
the
here
house
we'll
was
show,
vacant
yeah.
for years. And we sent notices for a year and a constable down to find the guy. He was down the Cape, and he couldn't find him, and the house was vacant that his address was. And so at one point in 2000, and I think it was 4,
Yeah.
Lieutenant Brooks
Oh, yes.
said, "Let's drive down there,"
Yes,
he
yes.
said to me. So we
Yeah.
got in the car, we drove down to the Cape, we met up with the police department down there.
Yeah.
They knew who we were talking about.
They did.
Yes,
Yeah.
they did, and they brought us to his girlfriend's house.
I love it.
So nobody was home at the house, so we posted the notice on the front door, and lo and behold, 3 days later, the phone rings in the office, and it was the owner. But that one went to district court.
Oh, it did.
That one went to court, and he was ordered to come up here and to through some of the building code, he was ordered to come up here, and he was ordered to do something about the house, make the house safe. He eventually boarded it up, and he eventually sold the house. That took about a year, that
Oh,
whole
man,
process,
I
a
just,
year and a half.
we were getting calls from neighbors right and left, and they were really
It's a lot of
disturbed.
work compared to the other work that we do around
Yeah.
here,
Oh,
because
yeah.
when I had to concentrate on something like that for a year and a half, phone calls from the neighbors constantly calling, because there was a blue top with cinder blocks on the roof
Oh, yeah.
for years and years.
yeah,
and
they
the
were-
landlord was nowhere to be found. But we tracked him down, and it was I was surprised when I got the phone call.
Well, here's another great before and after shot. Here's what it looks like now.
Yeah, he did a
Gorgeous
nice job.
house.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, he ended up
Yeah.
selling that. The court ordered him to either fix the house or put it on the market, and he had to come back to court, and he had to show that it was listed, and it ended up getting sold to the guy actually still lives in the home. So
Wonderful.
him and his
Good
family.
story.
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
a great story.
Yeah, we have the success stories once in a while.
We do,
don't
we do. It takes time, and
Yeah.
some people don't understand that.
Yeah.
We can't be going knocking on somebody's door right away because neighbor called. We got to do a little bit of investigating first and make sure it's safe to go there because you never know what you're going to run into.
I think a lot of people are under the assumption that because you have certain authority in the building department, that you can just go knock on anybody's door and go in and take a look and see what's going on. You can't do that.
No, well, you can, but you want to make sure you're going there for the right reason.
For the right reasons, absolutely.
You want to make sure if you're going there with the help from City United, when I like to do a site visit for something that is a major issue like this, I like to bring you guys all on board with the Board of Health, the Fire Department. That way everybody can write one letter and send them all in. A letter from each department is always, gets people's attention.
Sure, and we do it.
And when we bring the police along too, it's, it's safety when you go into an illegal rooming house. You don't know who's in there. So.
Absolutely. Well, we got another one coming up that I've got to talk to you about offline here. We've got another house that I guess neighbors are complaining about, and so after the show's over, I'll talk to you about it. It's another one we got to deal with.
More work to do.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, thanks a
Jerry.
lot. All right.
Appreciate it.
Take care, buddy.
Thank you.
This concludes part one of our visit with our City United members. Stay tuned next week. We'll give you part two. Jerry Kaufman for True Blue reminding you all to stay safe.